You're listening to the Jōrni Podcast. Ever wondered how a small shift in communication could bring more depth to all your relationships? Tune in today to learn more. This episode contains strong language, and listener discretion is advised. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Jōrni Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we explore how small intentional changes in how we communicate can make a big difference in our relationships. By spending just 5 minutes focusing on meaningful interactions, we can build stronger connections and create more understanding and intimacy with the people we care about. Dr. Heather Browne, best-selling author of the award-winning Speaking with the Heart and TEDx speaker, helps people recognize the power of communication. It is one of our most important skills that we have, and yet we don't consider our understanding, approach, belief, and therefore miss our possibilities. Living with a paranoid schizophrenic mother gave Dr. Heather a unique and powerful awareness that no one has the same reality, though we believe we do. Utilizing this revolutionary awareness has allowed her to transform communication within self and within all other types of relationship. This is the hidden key to acceptance, and this is her mission to share. As a relationship expert, Dr. Heather Browne has worked with thousands of individuals and couples in psychotherapy. She is the author of the award-winning book, Speaking with the Heart, Transforming Your Relationship with Compassion and Connection. Dr. Heather is a TEDx and keynote speaker, published in hundreds of journals, has an active TikTok channel, has been featured on ABC 7 News, was the relationship expert on KDOC Daybreak OC, and is published in Inc., Toronto Sun, Thriving Family Magazine, Light Plus Life, Brains, Scary Mommy, and Psychology Today. She is a regular guest blogger for both Links for Shrinks and for marriage-friendly therapists. Let's meet Dr. Heather Browne. Hi, Dr. Heather. It's so great to have you on the podcast again. You've been one of my absolute favorite guests, and so I'm so blessed and my heart is full to have you back one more time. And this time we're going to chat about how to deepen your relationship in 5 minutes, something I'm really curious about because I feel like we can all use a little more connection and a little bit more depth in our relationships, especially with all the technology and all of that going on. So I look forward to our conversation. Welcome back to the podcast.
It is always such a delight to be with you. And I so appreciate your time and your love of me. So thank you for having me. And I'm excited about this topic.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. I love chatting with you. And of course, this is your wheelhouse, relationships and everything surrounding that. So we will start off, I think, with a little bit of your story because there are listeners that may have joined us in the last few months, in the last year, that may not have heard your previous episodes. So would you like to share a little bit about your backstory and what you do and how you came to do what you do today?
You got it. And for those who've heard it before, I'll try to pull it together so it's concise. I was raised by a mom who was a paranoid schizophrenic, which gave me a very eye-opening childhood because it was very clear that we all have different realities. And it was also clear that we don't know how to coexist in different realities very well, because I think most of us believe everyone lives within ours. And so as I tried to learn how to love her, connect with her, care about her with us being in different realities, it started to show me that compassion was the key. That if I cared about her and took the time to try to accept that where she was a little bit different, or how she thought or what she felt or what she believed was a little bit different than mine, then I didn't have to be in challenge fight mode, and I didn't have to try to make her in my reality. And I accepted that I couldn't go into hers, which has started, well, in my 27 years of being a couples therapist, it's been the biggest piece still. We, for whatever reason, believe our partner should think, feel, understand, align with our experience and our realities. And then we also know at the same time that there's no way that could happen. But when we get into disagreement, it largely goes out the window. And we start to fight with the other about not aligning with us well. So that's been a huge part of my life's work, my book. It is in trying to help couples recognize, and individuals, we all have our experience. And our role as a human, I think, is to try to walk alongside whomever we're engaging with, be it a friend, be it our child, be it our boss, be it our lover, and how to do that in a way that's honorable, respectful, but doesn't negate the other person's experience. And it's a little tricky because we're emotional human beings. We take things personally. We get offended. We have beliefs of what is common sense or how things ought to be or roles, and this is the way it should be. But we don't take the time to find out what is the other person's thought process. And it's a big part of where we run amok in our relationships. And I think it's a big reason why there's so much infidelity in relationships, that we tend to be constantly looking for someone who will love us and care for us and respect us. And the reason we look outside is because we haven't done a good job of cleaning up the places of not connecting, not understanding within our own relationships. So I try to change that with helping couples learn how to speak with their heart.
And I love your work, and thank you for sharing a little bit about your own story and what you do. And of course, your work with couples, there's, like you said, that really important component of communication, without which it doesn't really function very well. And you wrote a book about that called Speaking from the Heart. So maybe we'll dive into the book a little bit and kind of understand, how do you work with your clients when they first come to you? How does communication figure into what you do, and how is that connected to your book? Is the book sort of lessons that you have learned in your time of working with couples, or what is your book about?
Largely that, but coming from the parameter that I was married for 20 years, I'm a widow. Living in this world, I'm 61, so living in this world for 61 years and compiling the aspects of the people and the friends of my life have gone through, and then a lot of research, through my master's and my doctorate as well. So the reason why I wrote the book, Speaking with the Heart, is because my belief is that everything is communication. And of course, we all can grow in that. And it is the primary problem in a relationship because we don't let the relationship be as significant as, in my opinion, it could be. And then we rely on the communication to do it. If you think about when you're a baby, there aren't words to tell the child's experience. So whoever is attending to the child goes off of everything else to try to figure it out. As soon as the child starts to express with words, we largely just follow the words and we don't have to do as much intuitive work. In some ways, that helps tremendously because it takes us quicker to where we're wanting to go. But it doesn't recognize necessarily the depth of the emotional piece that's important. So my viewpoint, instead of starting with words, which is like 7% of communication, let's start with love. Let's start with connecting. Because if I care for you and let you know you're more important to me than this topic we're about to have, where are you concerned? Where are you worried? What's going to be problematic for you as we explore this, so we can start to come up with some ways of having this conversation to help in those places that might be a struggle, help in those places that might be a trigger, help in those places that might be scary or hard, where someone wants to run or fight back or pull away. Like, let's learn how to pace this. And then it's a completely different conversation. Most of us feel against the other, or the other is against us in a difficult conversation. Instead of feeling we're going to get through this, we got to figure out how to take care of ourselves and let there be that space to do that. And we need to calm down when it becomes so emotionally laden. Our challenge with arguing and fighting is that you're at such an emotional peak. And when you're at an emotional peak, there's a huge pressure to get the other person to get your emotions. But our emotions are fluid, and we forget that. They're also not always rational. And so when you're trying to discuss something in an emotional inflation, it's oftentimes problematic. So you want to give yourself that time to calm down, to be able to say, like, this is where I'm fearful. This is where I'm concerned. This is where I'm hurt. And then walk through differently. So I basically turn communication on its head from the way that we do it, and start with compassion, then move into really connecting, and then move into the conversation that's to have. Because what that does then is it creates that bridge of, I am with you even though we're different realities, instead of you've got to be in mine, or I refuse to go into yours.
That actually makes a lot of sense as you're saying that, because we tend to jump in and just bite the other person's head off and say, why can't you see it like I'm saying it? Why can't you understand? So that makes a lot of sense to change that.
The premise of it is, what we're really saying is, I need you to change who you are to align with the way I feel and think and want you to be. I want you to become the person I want you to be, so I don't struggle. That's what a fight is. You stop being you and you be what I want you to be. And when you pull back and you think about that, you think, that's nuts. Why would anybody do that? I wouldn't want you to do that with me. But we don't realize what we're saying in an argument. We're saying, you're wrong, I'm right. You join me. Screw your reality. And that doesn't work. And that's not loving. So we're in that place. There might very well be love present, but we're not doing anything to cultivate it. We're either going to beat the other person down and they're going to acquiesce, they're going to push back, they're going to lie. But even if the person were to say, okay, yes, okay, fine, you're still not really in agreement. They're just not going to fight you anymore. Maybe. So it's just not effective.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you're saying it in the way that you're saying it, you're almost expressing that we're forcing someone to be someone they're not, just for the sake of seeing that we're right or that they can agree with us. And yeah, as you said, when I look at that, I would never want anyone in my family, my friends, my spouse to just have to change themselves so that I can be right. That does not sound like a very loving relationship at all. So
It's not.
Yeah.
And it's not even necessarily, sometimes it's in the ownership of being right, but a lot of times it's in the place of, I want this to be easy for me. If you will just do it my way, it's easy for me. And then I'm happy. And then I will be happy with you because you're making yourself easy for me to be happy with. But it doesn't recognize, but what about you? If I'm to be in a relationship with you, dear Lord, I better care about your experience. I better care about your needs. It isn't to be all about me. That's not a healthy relationship. But that's what we go for in a fight. And we don't look at it in that way. No, it's just my opinion. I just don't like yours. So yours, you should change it. But what we're really saying behind that is you change you so it's easier for me and then I can really love you. The truth is, then you're easy for me because that isn't love. Love isn't you not be who you are so I don't have to change anything. That's not love.
Yeah.
Love is, I recognize we're different. I'm going to care about myself and take care of myself so you're not responsible for me. I'm going to ask you to do the same. And I'm also going to care about your experience with me and want to figure out how do we together do this differently? Not all my way, not all your way, but how do we come up with, well, what would be agreeable? Where can we align? Which opens up the door for a completely different conversation and a different way of being. Then you move into an active, we are creating our relationship, our moment, and our future based upon what we both are willingly agreeing to. We don't do that in most of our relationships very well. And to me, we miss the core that's so important, which is every time there's struggle, confusion, anger, betrayal, there's not enough love present. I don't think that love will necessarily take away something. I don't. Someone who has cancer, a whole bunch of love might not take the cancer away. But it will make the experience of having the cancer and going through the cancer differently. So since that is my belief, anytime anybody struggles with me or fights with me or is hurt by me, my viewpoint is I can love you better than I have been, because that's what I hear. You're angry with me? I'm clearly not bringing enough love, or you're not experiencing my love enough. What am I missing here to cultivate that? We get caught on the battle. But if you start with the compassion piece, it takes it to a different place. It turns it into, we're struggling here. How can I love you and myself better right now? Every place there starts to be a struggle, a pullback, a resistance, a challenge, instead of it being viewed necessarily as a fight and against, it turns into, we're about to get closer. I'm going to learn a truth about you here, or a truth about me that's going to help us move into, if we so choose, a place where we can love deeper, closer, better. Most people look at resistance and change and places of difference as massively problematic. I look at it as you're just about to learn how to get closer. When my kids come to me and they say, Mom, there's something I got to share with you that you're doing that I don't really like, I take a deep breath and I say, awesome. I'm going to learn how to love you even better. And that takes changing how I am with them. It also takes them changing how they are with me, but it's not one-sided. But to be able to go to that place, I think you are to be in the place of really recognizing I care about another person's experience pretty much as my own. And I want to live that kind of present life, co-creating together. Not everybody wants that kind of relationship. Those are the clients I work best with, because it's from a place of self-responsibility and self-care, which I think we don't recognize we really don't do. I need you to make me safe, which then makes you responsible for me. And I don't think that's healthy. And I think that's why we live so much in a victim mode and a perpetrator mode, because we view it that way. And I think that disempowers the truth of a human being and of love.
Yeah, that's beautifully put. And I have a lot of light bulbs going off as
Oh, I'm
you're
so glad.
as you're talking, because I feel like if we maybe look at our communication within relationships with a simple perspective shift of we're about to enter into another loving collaboration versus it's you versus me and we have to fight this out and one of us has to be right at the end, then we can come to this place that you've been describing where we then actually deepen our relationship because we are, like you said, co-creating a solution, a place where we can both flourish and a place where we can each be ourselves and yet still have this very, very loving relationship. So it is a perspective shift of I have to fight for myself to I'm going to lovingly collaborate on this solution. And it's usually not the first place we go to, I think, because maybe I also feel that some of the people that are closest to me also know all the buttons to push when it comes to having a fight. They have sort of this unique power to pick at very deep pains and push some very annoying buttons that other people I'm not so close with, they don't have that ability specifically. But the closer you are, the more ability the people have to hit those pain points. And so it's really important, I think, to take that breath and come back into that space of, okay, I'm going to take responsibility for my piece here. I'm going to make sure that I'm okay and I can enter into this in a more loving and collaborative way rather than being defensive or taking this really personally and painful because this person just really knows how to push my buttons. So wonderfully put.
Thank you. And I think if you take a moment to step out and let yourself explore that, there's a way to come back and recognize your belief in that, but also your truth in that, which is, thank you for that time. I wanted to be able to come to where I knew I wasn't just reacting it with emotion. I do want to talk to you more about Israel. I also want you to know that when you bring up my mom, that's a very fragile place for me. And so when you made the comment earlier, it threw me into a place of feeling like I needed to protect myself with you. Can we explore what's going on there? And a lot of times I'll say to someone, can you share with me what your intention was in bringing up my mom? Because I'm not clear of what it is. And I want to make certain I'm not misinterpreting why you are. When my husband was alive, he would say, okay, he'd kind of backpedal a little bit and he'd be like, okay, he goes, yeah, let me say it differently. I'm like, please. And then instead of like, I think you're this way because, you're your mother's daughter, he might say, I'd like to help do this differently than the way that you have always done it. Because I think maybe by living with your mom, you don't know a different way. Is there a way it could be different? The question comes down to, am I treating you in a way to help you, or am I treating you in a way to harm you? And then the flip is, am I experiencing you as helping me? Am I experiencing you as this is harmful? It doesn't necessarily mean because I'm experiencing you as being harmful that's your intention. It might be, and then that's a really important conversation to pursue. But I remember saying to myself when Ted was alive, he's not wanting you to step out of this marriage. It's not that he wants to hurt you. That he actually wants you to feel very loved. Well, he's treating me sure as hell isn't feeling that way. But I would go back to, I know he wants to love me. So what's going on that I am so not feeling loved? Is he being careless? Is he being rude? Is he being selfish? Like, what's going on? And then be able to explore that separate from the piece of you don't love me. I'm not feeling loved right now because 3 times you have not followed through on something I asked you to do. That doesn't feel supportive. It's a different conversation. And I saw this come with my daughter a lot because she would be frustrated with me about something, and she'd come into the room and she'd say, I'm really angry with you and we need to talk about something. And I would say to her, do I have permission to say one thing first? She would always say yes. And I'd look at her beautiful blue eyes and I'd say, baby girl, I love you so, so much. And then she would look at me and her face would just kind of, oh, and she'd go, Mom. And I'm like, yes, yes. Tell me what's bothering you. I want to know. I want to figure out what we can do with this. I didn't necessarily say, I've done something wrong. I will change it. I don't know. But if I cared about this impacting her, then I'm going to be thoughtful to share it differently, to help it feel safer. I don't want to be adversarial with my child. That's not beneficial. I don't want to be speaking to her in a way that she's responding with panic or fear or doubt. So, would you share with me what your intention was in that so I can respond from that and not from what's going on in my head? What I would say a lot is the story in my head is this. You brought that up because this is a way for you to kind of feel like you're in power. Once again, you're going to put me down and put me in my place. So I'm more willing to agree with you. And the response sometimes would be like, wow, no, I'm just saying that's the way you've always done it. And how could you not? Because that's what you learned. Could we do it differently right now? And I'd be like, oh, that's really differently than what's going on in my head. Yeah, I'd like to. Ted was brilliant in that. He used to say, could there be another option? I'd be like, well, yeah, because can we explore those a little bit? And sometimes I'd come back to, I still believe what I believe. There are other options. I still think it's this. But it's in that, are you open to explore? And that is so missing when we're in a disagreement. We lose curiosity. Oh, I really don't get you. Can you help me understand you more?
You're giving our listeners a lot of great points here, a lot of good pieces that they can start with, that they could start working with. I love that. Thank you for that.
When I have an exercise, because it's always important when you're talking about like lofty ways of doing things to make it really concrete. So I have an exercise that I give on my couples, and I say, before the end of the day, preferably not right before bedtime, would you sit down together and come to this place of being together in, this is a moment to love, this is a moment to share, this is a moment to grow. And recognize, I want to help cultivate our love. And by doing that, there's a little exploration to have today. So to sit down together and to have the questions be, is there any place I didn't come through for you today? Or is there anything that like I missed that was important for you today? And is there anything that you haven't shared that really probably is important for us to explore today? Because I want to make certain today we resolve and walk through any place where there might be fear, concern, anger, what have you. And then you go back and forth and share that. A lot of times we haven't come through because we simply don't remember, we didn't know, we didn't think about it. It's not, I don't love you and I don't want to care about your experience. So you clean that up first and you thank each other for that. Thank you for trusting me. Like, it feels so good to know that like we're doing this together. We've got each other's hands. We're holding each other's hands going across. And then ask your partner, where did I come through the most deeply for you today? Where did you feel the most loved, the most heard, the most seen, the most desired, whatever it might be? And then, would you like to feel that even more deeply now? And then share from both sides. It does to really pivotal things. And it can be 5 minutes. A lot of times you're going to want to go longer because it just feels really good. It cleans up any muck, which is now going to probably start to become a negative belief system, which is coloring tomorrow and starting your view of your partner off somewhat like yesterday, you didn't say you loved me. I wonder if you're really loving me. Now I'm going to be watching you. Are you going to say you love me? Which now changes the energetic if I'm looking at you and you're thinking like, it's feeling a little judgmental. What's going on? And I don't even know because I didn't realize I didn't. So it cleans up any place where we're opening up a path of disconnect or lack of clarity, or maybe a functionality of the way I'm doing something that just isn't most effective. And it also deepens the place of recognizing where the other person, or creating a moment of love, safety, connection. When you do both of those things every day, it's a really vital, active, present, current, healing relationship. And then when your partner does something, instead of being like, you'll be like, that's weird. Like, why would they do that? And so then you explore it not from a, I hate you, I'm so mad at you perspective, more like a shocked, this is out of character. We were so close yesterday. What was that comment? And then it's easier to then not go into battle, into argument, because you're coming from a place of collaboration, which isn't that what a relationship is. It just depends upon how well do you do it. So my book, Speaking with the Heart, the way that I work is toward that. How can I work with you as you are? And how much are you willing to learn how to do this in a way that works better for both of us together? And where do we need to take some space? Because the way that you need to be, what you need to be doing, does not support who I need to be. So I need to recognize this is a place for me to take a little distance so that you pursue who you are in that way, but I'm not put into a situation that I don't feel is best for who I am here and why I am here. And that's not necessarily a red flag. If you know what your partner's intention is, and they're not putting the relationship in threat by taking some space, be it a day, an event, not going on a trip, whatever it might be, that's not necessarily not an incredibly supportive thing to do. But feeling you have to go along with something because of the other that threatens how you take care of yourself, that's not okay. And I think we do that a lot. And then blame the other.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that happens. Yeah.
So that 5-minute exercise, it's gold. And I'll tell clients, please do it every day. And even if you're not face to face, still do it, Zoom, do it FaceTime, over the phone if you have to, not texting, because you want the emotional connection. You want the live present connection. That's part of what you're cultivating. We have quality time for our relationship to support it being healthier, more connected, more loving. I'll know. They step back into my office and I'll be like, you feel different. And like the exercise really good. Or they'll step back into the office and I'll look at their tensions and I'm like, you're not doing the exercise, because they'll come in with a whole bunch that we need to explore. And even if there is, if they've been doing that exercise, they come in like, oh, wow, we need your help. It moves to a we instead of an I and you. And we know this, we hear this, but it does it in a very simple, clear, but very, very changing and transforming way. So I hope listeners will do it every day.
I hope so too. What a wonderful exercise. And this is something, even if you don't have a lot of time during the day, you can do this, like you said, when you're getting ready for bed and you just spend those minutes together, you take that time. So I think doable even for busy parents, for working professionals, anyone can take that little bit of time at the end of their day to invest into their relationship. And by the sounds of it, that's going to be a great impact in their relationship if they actually do that every day. So I'm going to start doing that.
Not just partnership. I do it with my friends. Did I miss anything? Where did you feel the most hurt or loved by me? And my friends are like, I love this. I'm like, me too. I want to know how I touch you the deepest. And I want to cultivate that. So I do it with my deep friends when we spend time together. I do it with my clients. I do it with my children. In anybody that you're engaging with, your boss, anyone you're engaging with, you where you really want to know, like, where do we have a little bit more work to do? Where are we really good? So important.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, there are many more relationships than just our intimate romantic relationships that we can apply this to. And I have one last question for you, because as you're explaining this, I'm getting curious. So what if you have a partner, a spouse, a friend, or even your children, where the other partner in the communication isn't so much interested in collaborating or figuring things out? Is there a way that we can still maybe start that process of adding to our knowledge or helping them kind of shift more into wanting to collaborate instead of just fight? Is that possible if one partner is much more communicative than the other partner? Can we still work on that together?
It's a great question. And there's not a solid answer. I mean, it really depends upon how connected they are and how connected they're not and the moment. So there's not just a standard answer with it. You can always work on any relationship you have just within yourself. But there is a difference when you're in a relationship with somebody who doesn't want to really work with you. And my exercise will make that a little clearer, which can feel sad. It can feel discouraging. I think it's actually just more clarifying. Because if someone were to say to me, yeah, I'm not really interested in doing this, I would say, all right. Then I guess in the moment, I'm going to need to check in with you to see, are you in a place where you're caring about my experience as well? There's something that I have my clients ask before an important conversation, be it their boss, be it their lover, what have you. And I would start asking those questions, which is, where is it that we're trying to go? What's the outcome that you want to have from this? Because I want to make certain I understand what that is, because this is what mine is. Because you want to find out you're both on that same path. If you're not, you need to explore that. Well, how do we figure out what we're going to talk about? Most times we go into a conversation, we don't have the same, well, the arguments, we don't have the same potential outcome desire. We don't know that until we're in the conversation. I try to help you figure that out first. Well, I'm not on that. I'm not on the board. We're buying the car yet. So let's start talking about like buying the car before we move into, because I'm not a yes there yet. Second is, am I in a place where I can discuss with you, or I think I can care about our relationship and the way that we do this? And if that's a no, I'm not going to have that conversation, because that's going to be a fight. That's going to be an argument. That's going to be a demand. I'm not opening myself to that. Third is, are we both open to the other person's emotional experience in this? Is this to hurt? Is this to harm? It's a little bit different than the first. The first is, are we willing to do this as kindly and respectfully as possible? And the second is, and am I open to your experience? If I had a no, I don't have that conversation. I say, all right, no problem. Then we're going to wait. We're going to wait till I'm a part of this conversation too. I've had to say that a couple of times with my son. He's like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, I'm important. And he'll come back and he's like, Mom, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. But I didn't want to have that conversation because I doesn't want to be yelled at, screamed at, and just have to sit there. And then the fourth is this the best time? And that one's so important. And people don't utilize it. We ask something the last minute walking out the door. We do it through text. We do it while the person's at work. We do it right before bed. We don't do it at the best time. Someone's in the middle of a project. When you say, would you let me know when it's a good time for us to talk about possibly buying a car? Then instead of us me throwing it on you and you being bombarded with this information, possibly not even had the chance to process it yet. So we're already starting from, I have way more knowledge than you have because I'm just throwing it on you and asking you to basically jump where I am. It also allows the other to say, I'm ready now to talk about this, which it's a we. It's a we. So to me, if it's a really important relationship, it's not going to be as healthy as it could be, or certainly as safe or as loving as it could be without a we. I'm not saying you can't stay in it, but there's going to be a lot more questions because you're going to need to make certain that the other person will respect you, or you're putting yourself very much at risk. And I just don't think that's wise. I would have a hugely difficult time to stay in a relationship where the other person said, I'm not interested in collaborate, and be like, well, what's the point of being in a relationship then? Isn't that what relationship is? Then be single.
Yeah, those are some great points. And maybe those are things that we can learn. It's if we become aware of the fact that maybe we're not communicating as deeply or as efficiently as we could be, and that could actually change our relationship. Because as you said, maybe sometimes people aren't aware even that they're doing or not doing certain things. So in that communication, we could uncover that. And as you've been saying, deepen that relationship. Yeah.
It's true. My kids have both at times said, I just want to share with you. I don't want you to tell me what to do. I don't want really your approval. I'm like, all right. And then they share what they share. I'm like, okay. And then they normally say, what do you think? And I'm very careful. I say, I want to respect what you've asked of me. So what is it that you're asking? And what do I think? Are we exploring this really together? Do you just want to know my viewpoint? But we might not explore. Every conversation you have doesn't necessarily mean both people are going to be equally in that place of working through. You might just need to inform somebody. I just need to let you know what I've chosen. It's not really up for negotiation. Or I just want to vent. There's something that the Dalai Lama does that is so much of what the Dalai Lama does is so beautiful. But in conversation, he has these 4 different states of communication with your partner. And he always says, my beloved. And I'm not going to have it as clear as I wish I did. But the first one is, you are hurting and I am so sorry that you are hurting. Like, how can I be here for you and you're hurting? And then there is, I have hurt you. And would you please share with me, that you are hurting so I can understand? And what he says is when it's that second one, he oftentimes would just have his partner share. And I'm just going to love on you, make this a safe space for you to share whatever it is that you feel. So I receive your entire experience. And that's it. And not go further than that conversation. And when I read that, I went, whoa, never in my life done that. But what a beautiful thing. If what you need to do is to share your experience and to have me receive it and not move into, well, my thought is we can do that. And then tomorrow, when you're in a place to be open to receive a response, my thoughts, can we go there? It's an interesting way of thinking about exploring somebody else's situation. I don't know anybody who really does it or very frequently, but it's a beautiful thing. I think by just offering it, if someone were to say that to me, I would probably then want to move into, could I do that for you now? The challenge we have is we both want the other person to do that for us in the moment, but we don't want to do it for the other. And that's the battle. You need to love me more than I'm willing to love you. And something that I hear so often, and sometimes when you hear these things, you think like, oh my goodness, why am I even saying that? But people will say, I'm not willing to love you until you change how you're loving me. So you go fix you. I'm not going to love you. And when you come back and love me well, then I'll love you. That's what most of us say. And when you hear that, you think, that doesn't make sense. Why would anybody do that? There's a lot for us to learn. And I think being open to that, having that truth, like, boy, this is going to be an incredible dynamic that I've never experienced before because I've never experienced you before. And I hope I'm supportive and loving of you. I might not always be. There's a difference between being in a relationship with someone who intentionally never wants to wound your spirit and someone who might want to. And I heard that before I was married. And I remember thinking, oh, that's gold. And I asked that with couples where I'm not sure. There's a difference between, no, I would never want to intentionally hurt you. I wouldn't. I might, but it's not that I want to. But that would be something I would want to ask. Because if the person says, yeah, I might at times, I'd say, I need you to let me know when, because I need to pull myself out so I can protect myself then.
Yeah.
But if you have that conversation and then the person says, no, I would never want to, then I remembered that. You know, he wants to love you. You know, he doesn't want to wound you. Damn, he's being selfish. Damn, he's being forgetful. But that's different than you want to hurt me. And I think we tend to go to that side. You don't love me. Whereas the person was selfish, forgetful, careless. How often do you really want to hurt your partner? I think it's very rare. I would hope.
Yeah.
And in the process of how well do I love myself, we start to learn how to love others more. And so there is that question of how well am I loving myself? Because any place where I'm not going to be very good at loving you. So I think being human, or at least the life that I have chosen for myself, is one of a lot of self-exploration and a lot of recognizing that your experiences is as important as mine, has to be, for us to come to love.
Yeah. And I think if listeners take what you just said as a little nugget with them, I think it could already make, just with that one thing that you said, a huge difference in their relationships. When we realize that the other person's experience is just as important as our own. What a shift in perspective. So thank you for saying that. And listeners, take that little nugget with you and into your relationships, whether that is your lovers, your spouses, or your other relationships in the family or with coworkers. If we recognize that the other person's experience is just as important as our own, I think we could fundamentally change a lot of the relationships that we have with other people. So thank you for sharing that. I feel next to the exercise that you gave, this is probably this other thing that listeners should take away with them. Beautifully, beautifully put. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to ask you how our listeners could work with you, because we've spoken a lot about relationships and communication. And I have a feeling that there's probably a lot of listeners that would like to invite more of that into their lives, or maybe change the way that they're communicating, learn some of those things that you speak about in your book and improve their relationships, deepen their relationships, make them more meaningful and connect better. So how can our listeners work with you? What kind of programs, resources do you offer? How can we connect with you?
Oh, thank you so much for offering. And listeners, I would love to hear from you. So if you have a question, if you have a thought, please reach out. I have a large knowledge base, and I also am pretty good at trying to find resources in other places. So I can always guide you if there's something that you need that you don't know on your own. My website, of course, is kind of the hub of me. So www.drheatherbrowne.com. Dr. Heather Browne. So drheatherbrowne.com. On that, you'll find my book, of course, Speaking with the Heart. It's also available Barnes and Noble and Amazon. I have a blog. I have a newsletter. I have a huge page of freebies, a huge press page with articles and TV recordings and podcasts and lots of things there. And then if you also go to the page of Work with Me, you'll see there's coaching, there's psychotherapy. I have a 6-week intensive 3-person, because it's me and the couple, program that I've created, Speaking with the Heart for couples. And it goes through really pivotal information of love languages and attachment styles and stepping into a conversation, giving and receiving, the thought process that we have, how to do pacing, and how to help you in those conversation places that where it gets prickly and sticky. It's a joy to work with couples deeply in that as well. So there's lots of ways, and I'd be honored to, if there's any way I can support you in your journey.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing all of those beautiful resources. And of course, we'll be linking to everything that you have to offer in our show notes as well. So any listener that would like to connect with Dr. Heather, make sure you check the show notes. We'll be putting the website, links to the book. We'll be connecting the socials. And Dr. Heather has also done a TEDx talk. So we'll link to that too, because that was very inspirational. So we'll make sure we got you covered when it comes to connecting with Dr. Heather. And I just want to say one more time, thank you so much for spending this time with us today and sharing your knowledge and deep, deep wisdom around all things relationship and communication with us today. I feel if we all just dipped our toes into this a little bit more, I think we could have so much more meaningful and deep conversations and relationships, which is, like you said, something we all want. We want to be loved more and seen more and heard more. And we all have that wonderful opportunity and place to do that. So thank you for being here today. And thank you for sharing all this with our listeners. I am truly grateful that you joined us again today.
I so appreciate you. And I so respect who you are and the quality of the love and compassion that you have for people. So it is truly my honor. It's always a gift for me as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I will leave our listeners with this beautiful, beautiful last words from you. Lots of love to everyone, to better communication, deeper relationships, and definitely connect with Dr. Heather because she has so much wisdom and knowledge to impart on that to make this world a better place with more love. To everyone, take great care of yourselves and communicate with your heart. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Jōrni Podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Jōrni on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejōrni.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.